Hey guys, tonight we're uncapping something fizzier than your midlife existential crisis. The original recipe of Coca-Cola, when it wasn't just a soft drink, but a legal, carbonated narcotic on tap at your local pharmacy. Yes, really. So before you settle in, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and how much caffeine you need just to function. Now, dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soothing white noise, maybe put your phone on Do Not Disturb so your group chat can't tempt you back into consciousness. Get comfortable, pour yourself a nice, non-medicinal beverage. Let's ask the big questions. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk into a pharmacy, ask for a pick-me-up, and be handed a glass of soda laced with enough cocaine to make Freud blush? Would your 9 to 5 be easier if your morning coffee came with a side of euphoria? Would your family dinners be more tolerable if everyone was slightly coked up and confused about why they suddenly want to buy more hats? Could you survive a time when energy drinks were more like low-key chemistry experiments and your local pharmacist was basically a licensed party planner with a mortar and pestle? And now, congratulations. You've just woken up in Atlanta, Georgia, in the year 1886. The air smells faintly of horses, wood smoke, and ambition. You're about to invent, or accidentally drink, something that will change history and make your dentist rich forever. Good luck. You wake up in an America still reeling from the Civil War, where the only thing more popular than nostalgia is patent medicine. Water isn't to be trusted. Alcohol is frowned upon before noon, and everyone's looking for a miracle tonic. Preferably one that tastes less like regret and more like progress. It's the 1880s. Your bed is lumpy, your joints ache, and there's a mysterious draft coming through the wall that you're pretty sure wasn't there last night. You squint at the rising sun and try to summon enough optimism to face another day in a world powered almost entirely by disappointment, sawdust, and the endless promise of new and improved elixirs. Breakfast options? Stale bread, questionable bacon, and a glass of water that may or may not be planning to take you out in a week. No one trusts the water. Everyone knows that's where the real trouble starts. Microbes, cholera, and the distinct taste of whatever upstream neighbor decided to dispose of last night's secrets. Coffee exists, sure, but it's expensive, gritty, and mostly for the privileged or those willing to chew their morning cup. So what's left for the ordinary American who's tired, anxious, and haunted by the ghosts of battles fought both on and off the field? The answer, naturally, is liquid hope, bottled, branded, and sold by men with mutton chops and suspiciously large medical diplomas. Patent medicines fill every drugstore window, promising to fix everything from baldness to heartbreak. You can't walk a block without tripping over a sign advertising Professor Hobbs' miracle elixir, now with extra opium, or Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup for children and nervous adults. The ingredients are a roulette wheel of danger. Morphine, alcohol, coca leaves, arsenic, and just a dash of peppermint for flavor. Because if you're going to gamble with your health, you might as well have minty breath. Every American is thirsty for a buzz, but nobody wants to admit it. Publicly, people complain about vice and intemperance. Privately, they're lining up at the pharmacy for their daily dose of invigoration. There's a national tension between wanting to be pure and productive and secretly hoping for something, anything, that makes Monday seem less like a slow-motion parade toward the grave. And then there's the temperance movement, the country's largest, loudest buzzkill. They hold rallies, write pamphlets, and lecture anyone within earshot about the evils of alcohol. Beer is out. Whiskey is the devil's mouthwash. But what about a bubbly glass of nerve tonic, freshly dispensed at your local soda fountain? Technically, it's not booze, and that makes all the difference. So you join the crowd at the pharmacy, clutching a nickel and a prayer. The air smells of liniment, cigar smoke, and a lingering sense of medical confusion. The pharmacist, half scientist, half street magician, slides a glass of something dark and fizzing across the counter. It promises to cure headaches, banish fatigue, and restore youthful vigor. The fact that it's bubbling like a science fair volcano is almost comforting. Everyone around you drinks, sighs, and smiles. For a brief moment, the national malaise lifts. You can almost forget about the aches, the debts, and the fact that nobody really knows what's in their glass. It's a golden age of unregulated enthusiasm, and you're right in the middle of it. In this world, every problem has a liquid solution, and nobody's worrying about tomorrow's hangover or tomorrow's side effects. You clink your glass, toast to progress, and decide that if history is going to be absurd, at least it's got a nice aftertaste. And that, more than anything, is how a nation learned to chase the buzz, one questionable sip at a time. Enter John Stith Pemberton, Civil War veteran, morphine addict, part-time pharmacist, and full-time chaos agent. Imagine Walter White with a handlebar mustache and a southern drawl, desperately searching for a painkiller that won't destroy him. Spoiler, he overshoots. You are John Pemberton, and your day starts with a familiar ache, the kind of pain that seeps into your bones and makes you wish morphine grew on trees, or at least on bushes in the backyard. You wake up each morning in Columbus, Georgia, still haunted by the war, still searching for something, anything, that will help you get through the day without feeling like you're made of broken glass and regret. You used to be a cavalry officer, riding through gunfire, but now your biggest battles involve a stubborn addiction and a pharmacy ledger that never quite balances. The year is 1885. Your beard is glorious, your waistcoat is stained with suspicious brown splotches, and your pockets are full of herbal samples and half-finished recipes. After a lifetime of watching Americans treat their problems with alcohol and laudanum, you're determined to invent a better way. A nerve tonic that will let you sleep at night and face the daylight without flinching. You want to be the hero in your own story. But mostly, you want to be pain-free for more than 45 consecutive minutes. So you put on your hat, adjust your cravat, and descend into the world of late 19th century pharmaceuticals. A lawless frontier where anyone with a mortar and pestle can call themselves a chemist, and where the line between science and wishful thinking is written in disappearing ink. Your pharmacy is half laboratory, half apothecary, half wild guessing game, and yes, that's too many halves, but so is everything in the Gilded Age. On your crowded shelves are glass jars of exotic powders, stacks of patent medicine labels, and enough dried roots and leaves to start a botanist's fever dream. The air is thick with the smell of menthol, turpentine, and desperation. Customers shuffle in with headaches, heartbreaks, and a desperate hope for something new. Some need a sleep aid. Some want a pick-me-up. Some just enjoy the show. You're a pharmacist, but you're also a performer. And today's show is how many ingredients can we mix before something explodes? But your pain is the real motivator. After a saber wound to the chest in the war, you were prescribed morphine, at the time, considered safer than alcohol and more respectable than screaming into a pillow. Decades later, you're trapped by the very thing that was supposed to set you free. So you tinker and you blend, hoping you'll stumble onto something that works for you and, if you're lucky, can be sold to the masses as a cure for whatever ails them. That's how you discover coca leaves, imported all the way from Peru, favored by Andean laborers for their stamina, and by European doctors for their cheering properties. And then there's the African cola nut, a caffeine-packed marvel so bitter you're convinced only the truly desperate would ever chew it raw. Luckily, America is filled with the truly desperate. Your first mixtures are ambitious. Sometimes they fizz, sometimes they turn alarming shades of green, sometimes they knock you sideways for a solid hour. Your notebooks are a mix of medical observations and diary entries. Added double the cola today. Still feel like my soul is leaving my body. It's science. if you define science as trying not to poison yourself in the pursuit of greatness. Friends and colleagues think you're eccentric, possibly brilliant, and definitely not to be left alone with the alcohol cabinet. Your pets watch warily from the doorway, keenly aware that every batch could end with a small fire. Still, you persist, because if America is thirsty for a buzz, you are positively parched. In the end, John Pemberton isn't just a pharmacist. He's the embodiment of the American impulse to self-medicate and call it innovation. Driven by pain, haunted by the past, and stubbornly optimistic, you chase a cure for yourself and stumble into a recipe that will one day change the world. For now, it's just you, your vials, and a head full of dreams, plus, let's be honest, a trace amount of cocaine. This is how legends start, with a wounded man in a cluttered shop, blending pain and hope into a glass, and sipping slowly to see what happens next. Let's be honest. In late 19th century America, your local pharmacy isn't just a place for cough syrup and band-aids. It's the social nerve center, the community's unofficial therapy office, and, more importantly, the safest place in town to get slightly altered without raising the neighbor's eyebrows. You walk in, aching for relief, and the bell on the door jingles like the start of an adventure. There's a faint scent of licorice, coal smoke, and a hint of antiseptic that never quite covers up the underlying aroma of desperation and pipe tobacco. Step inside. Shelves crowd the walls, stacked with glass bottles of every color and label. Invigorating liniment, herbal calming drops, and, if you dig far enough, witch hazel, good for everything, bad for absolutely nothing. The pharmacist stands behind the counter like a bartender with a medical license, dapper, bespectacled, and wielding a long-handled spoon like he means business. He's part scientist, part showman, and part local secret keeper. People don't just come here for medicine, they come for company, for news, for an excuse to avoid the relentless, bone-shaking boredom of 19th century afternoons. The waiting area is full of mismatched chairs and wooden benches polished by years of anxious fidgeting. Ladies whisper behind handkerchiefs. Men swap stories of ailments both real and exaggerated. And every child in town eyes the candy jar with barely contained greed. If you need advice on a rash, a lost love, or the best way to store potatoes for winter, this is where you go. Your pharmacist has heard it all, and probably invented some of it. The star attraction is the soda fountain, gleaming brass, marble countertop, and a lineup of taps more mysterious than the city's water supply. No one knows exactly what's in each spigot, but everyone has a favorite. It's the only bar in town where minors are not only welcome but encouraged to belly up and order something strong, by which we mean full of caffeine and syrups that rot your teeth before you even hit puberty. Order a phosphate, and the pharmacist grabs a glass with a practiced flourish, dashing in syrups from labeled bottles, cherry, sarsaparilla, lemon, and of course, the new house favorite, Coca-Cola. He hits the soda lever, and a hiss of carbonated water fills the glass, bubbles rising like hopeful thoughts. He stirs, tastes, adds a little more syrup for good luck, and slides it across the counter. You take a sip. It's sweet, cold, and almost certainly illegal in 5 European countries. The flavor is wild, invigorating, and there's an aftertaste of adventure, or possibly regret. In this era, nobody really trusts water, and everyone is suspicious of alcohol unless it's hidden inside a medicinal tonic and prescribed by someone in a vest. The pharmacy is the loophole. It's where you can meet your friends for a drink at noon, call it a health beverage, and then blame the pharmacist if you start seeing double. There's a line of townsfolk at all hours, factory workers on break, grandmothers in bonnets, and traveling salesmen with more stories than sense. The conversation drifts from local scandals, who's feuding with whom, to national events, are we still at war with anyone, to the new miracle drink that's got everyone buzzing. In the corner, 2 elderly men argue about which elixir cured their lumbago faster, and a bored teenager debates whether to try the electric nerve phosphate or just steal another licorice stick and run for it. And at the center of it all, the pharmacist, mixing, listening, dispensing advice that is equal parts wisdom and wild speculation. He'll recommend a tonic for your nerves, a syrup for your cough, and a candy for your troubles. You leave with a paper sack full of hope, a mouthful of sweetness, and the sense that, somehow, the world is just a little more manageable, because in this golden, fizzing age, the pharmacy isn't just a store. It's a sanctuary, a place where life's aches are soothed, if only for an afternoon, with a little sugar, a little medicine, and a lot of company. And as the sun sets, you'll be back. Because the lighting is better, the drinks are safer, and the bartender never asks for your age. You find yourself standing in the back room of an 1880s pharmacy, surrounded by wooden crates stamped with foreign languages, their contents smelling suspiciously like both the rainforest and the bottom of a Victorian gym sock. There, on the cluttered counter, sits a pile of glossy, deep green coca leaves, freshly imported from South America, and a sack of cola nuts, hard as marbles and twice as intimidating. This is not your typical baking experiment. This is the origin story of the world's first multitasking energy drink, built from plants that have no intention of letting anyone rest. Let's start with the coca leaf. It's been chewed by Andean workers for centuries, prized for its uncanny ability to turn a day of brutal labor into a manageable, if slightly manic, stroll up a mountain. You, a curious pharmacist or a particularly ambitious amateur, are instructed by your latest medical journals that coca will restore vitality, banish fatigue, and improve mental clarity. In reality, it's the 19th century version of triple espresso. Except it also comes with a side of legal cocaine. You sniff the leaves, half expecting enlightenment and half expecting your nose hairs to fall out. The aroma is earthy, slightly sweet, and tinged with a whiff of danger, like fresh-cut grass with a criminal record. In South America, indigenous people chew the leaves, mixing them with lime or ash, and get through 12-hour shifts herding llamas or running up hills that would make a stairmaster weep. In America, you're supposed to steep the leaves in alcohol and hope for the best. The resulting extract is sharp, bitter, and just a little bit numbing on the tongue. That last bit is a clue. If your face goes numb, you're probably doing pharmacy right. 1880s. Style. Next comes the cola nut. Native to the deep forests of West Africa, it's the secret ingredient in any recipe that claims to provide invigoration. The nuts are tough, glossy, and smell vaguely like a leather boot that survived a humid summer. For generations, cola nuts have been used in African societies to honor guests, fuel ceremonies, and crucially, keep people awake through the longest of village meetings. When chewed raw, cola nuts are bitter enough to make your teeth contemplate early retirement, but they're loaded with caffeine, nature's original alarm clock. Now, back in your bustling pharmacy, you've got both these marvels laid out like precious gems. This is where the magic, and a little bit of reckless science, begins. You slice, grind, steep, and mix. Every batch is an adventure. Every taste test a negotiation between your ambition and your survival instinct. It's not enough for your tonic to wake people up. It has to taste vaguely palatable too. Otherwise, customers will take their business and their nervous systems elsewhere. Combine coca extract with cola nut infusion, and you've got yourself the Victorian answer to, what if coffee and a Red Bull had a baby and then gave it a personality disorder? The resulting mixture is a dense, dark syrup that tastes like caramelized medicine with a secret life. Add sugar, lots of sugar, and you can almost convince yourself this is a drink, not a dare. You wonder if you're a medical pioneer or just one more American enthusiastically guessing at science. The only thing everyone can agree on, after a glass of this potion, the city feels brighter, the streets busier, and the world a lot faster. Mothers send their children to fetch that new invigorating tonic, and the town's factory workers develop a new appreciation for overtime. In these years, there are no warning labels, No restrictions, just the bold promise of progress, imported in bulk, steeped in mystery, and stirred into your daily routine. You bottle the concoction, slap on a label that hints at both the Amazon and the Congo, and pray the government never asks too many questions. The buzz, after all, is the entire point. You've just met America's new favorite duo, and they are about to keep you, and the entire country, up for the next 100 years. It's late, you're tired, and your pharmacy smells like a cross between a greenhouse, a candy store, and a small explosion at a chemistry lab. You are John Pemberton. Wounded, determined, and a little desperate. You've spent weeks mixing, boiling, and taste-testing combinations of roots, barks, spices, syrups, and whatever's left over from the last failed miracle cure. Your fingers are stained, your tongue is numb, and your notebook reads like the diary of a hopeful but slightly deranged wizard. The truth is, you're not really following a plan. You're improvising, a little like a jazz musician, if jazz musicians worked exclusively in bitters, narcotics, and caramel coloring. Some days, the experiments go well. Other days, not so much. The syrup is too thin, or the flavor is somewhere between medicinal regret and why is this spicy? But you persist, because that's what innovators do, and also because your alternative is a lifetime of selling foot powder and arguing with customers about the cost of liniment. On the counter is a lineup of glass vials, each one holding the residue of last night's attempt. There's an essence of coca, a dash of cola nut, and a parade of other ingredients. Damiana, nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla bean, and a secretive trickle of alcohol. Sometimes you wonder if you're making a drink or a potion to summon friendly spirits. But hope springs eternal, and besides, every great recipe starts with a mistake or three. You take another stab at it, this time more sugar. America loves sugar, and so do you, especially when it masks the more suspicious notes of herbal adventure. A few drops of citric acid for brightness, lemon oil for a sunny southern finish, and just the tiniest whisper of essential oils whose names you can barely pronounce, but which sound frankly delicious. You stir the bubbling syrup, praying that you don't accidentally invent a new category of household cleaning product. But the breakthrough doesn't come from careful planning. It comes from chaos. Maybe you're distracted by a customer. Maybe you sneeze and dump in twice as much syrup. Maybe the dog knocks over a beaker. All you know is that today's batch is different, darker, richer, sweeter, with a smell that says, "This is not cough medicine, this is something new." You pour a little into a glass and top it with cold, fizzing soda water. The bubbles race to the surface, and the room fills with a caramel spice scent that's a lot less threatening than your last dozen attempts. You take a sip. It's sweet, sharp, refreshing, and it makes your head buzz in the best possible way. It's not just good, it's exciting. You hand a glass to your assistant, who drinks, blinks, and immediately asks for more. The pharmacist across town tries it, then spends the afternoon reorganizing his entire store by color and alphabet. News spreads fast. There's something new at Jacob's Pharmacy, and it tastes like progress, luck, and just a hint of legal mischief. Word of mouth does what advertising can't. People wander in for a headache remedy and leave telling their friends about the delicious nerve tonic. Some come for the pick-me-up. Some just want to see what all the fuss is about. Nobody asks what's in it. Nobody cares. It's cold, it's sweet, and it makes even the worst Tuesday feel like a very manageable Thursday. That's the real genius of Coca-Cola. It wasn't born of meticulous planning or medical certainty. It was the chaotic, bubbling offspring of improvisation, accident, and the universal human desire to feel just a little bit better. By midnight, the new recipe is scribbled down, the last glass is poured, and you lean back, exhausted but buzzing. You have no idea you've just created an empire. Sometimes, the world doesn't change with a plan. It changes when you're out of options and just crazy enough to try one more wild mix. Tonight, you toast your own invention And tomorrow, you'll make history. One fizzy glass at a time. It's a blazing afternoon in Atlanta. The air outside is thick with the smell of horse sweat, coal smoke, and entrepreneurial optimism. Inside, the pharmacy is cool, dimly lit, and alive with a steady fizz. You step up to the marble counter and enter a world where the soda fountain isn't just a machine, it's an altar, and the soda jerk behind it is both priest and entertainer, ready to serve you a glass of liquid adventure. You slide onto a creaky stool, elbows on the counter, and take in the scene. The fountain itself is a gleaming marvel of brass, porcelain, and polished wood, with glass syrup dispensers lined up like jewels. Each bottle holds a different flavor: vanilla, cherry, sarsaparilla, lemon phosphate, and, now, something brand new, the mysterious, intoxicating Coca-Cola. Customers gossip in low voices. The bell on the door jingles, and the only thing louder than the conversation is the hissing and bubbling of carbonated water rushing from silver taps into tall, sweating glasses. The soda jerk, maybe 16, with a paper hat perched at a jaunty angle, rules this domain. He moves with the showmanship of a circus ringmaster and the speed of someone who's definitely sampled every syrup behind the counter. Every order is a small performance. When you ask for the good stuff, he winks conspiratorially, tips the Coke bottle, and lets the syrup cascade into your glass. He adds a squirt of sparkling water, stirs with practiced flair, and slides your drink across the marble with a flourish that says, "Yes, this is the best part of your week." You take your first sip. The fizz dances on your tongue, the syrup is shockingly sweet, and there's a little something else. A tingle in your gums, a sense of possibility humming in your bones. You're suddenly wide awake, slightly giddy, and half convinced you could run a marathon or finally clean the gutters. There's a subtle energy in the air. It feels like anything could happen, and you might remember most of it. Around you, the crowd is a strange mix. Businessmen in seersucker suits, mothers in starched dresses, children with sticky hands and wild eyes, a tired preacher, a hopeful schoolteacher. The soda fountain doesn't discriminate. It's where everyone comes for a break from the heat and the weight of their daily problems. Even the local constable swings by, hat in hand, just to sip a health tonic and listen to the town's latest rumors. The drinks are cheap, the service is brisk, and the etiquette is casual. There are no reservations, no bouncers, and absolutely no judgment if you come back 3 times in one day. Some folks sip their sodas slow, savoring each cool mouthful. Others knock theirs back and order a second before the first has finished fizzing. It's not just a beverage, it's an experience, a ritual, a chance to feel alive and connected in a world that still doesn't have air conditioning or reliable mail service. For the kids, the soda fountain is pure magic. It's the closest thing they have to Disneyland. Except here, the ticket price is a nickel, and the main attraction comes in a glass. They giggle, slurp, and dare each other to try double syrup. For adults, it's an excuse to pause, gossip, and forget for a moment that the water outside could still give you cholera. As the day slides into evening, the soda fountain stays busy. Lovers meet for a shared straw and a little small-town scandal. The pharmacist checks in, just to make sure the soda jerk isn't giving out the extra-strength batch. Everyone leaves with a sugar rush, a faint buzz, and the sense that, if just for a few minutes, they've been in the only place in America where joy is measured in ounces and served on ice. Tomorrow, you'll be back, because nothing else is quite as sweet or quite as legal as the soda fountain's secret. Let's get one thing straight. If you're wandering around America in the late 1800s, there's a good chance you are, statistically, a little bit coked up right now. Don't be embarrassed. So is your doctor, so is your dentist, so is probably your priest. Because in this golden era of patent medicine, cocaine is less dangerous street drug and more trendy household spice. The kind that's sprinkled into just about everything and recommended for everyone. You wake up feeling groggy, maybe a little blue. Is it nerves? Fatigue? Melancholy? Congratulations, there's a product for that, and it's probably got cocaine in it. Step into any respectable pharmacy, and you'll find a wonderland of brightly colored bottles, each promising miracles in ornate Victorian script. There are cocaine toothache drops for children, because babies' first words might as well be more, please. Cocaine lozenges for sore throats, and even cocaine-infused French wine of coca for the distinguished drinker who wants to pair a glass of Bordeaux with unbridled confidence. Why is cocaine in everything? Simple. Nobody's stopped it yet. In fact, the medical establishment loves it. Your doctor prescribes it for everything from hay fever to hysteria. If you're anxious, depressed, bored, tired, coughing, sneezing, or even just underperforming at dinner parties, there's a cocaine-based remedy with your name on it. The ads say recommended by physicians, and everyone just sort of nods because doctors back then have roughly the same authority as a modern search engine. Whatever they say must be true. Cocaine isn't just legal, it's respected. It's the oat milk of the Gilded Age, the wellness fad nobody questions. You can buy it in bulk from Sears, Roebuck & Co. catalogs, right alongside your new corset and a reliable shovel. Even Queen Victoria's physician is known to dabble. Sigmund Freud, the world's most famous psychoanalyst, loves the stuff so much he writes essays about it and sends a few enthusiastic samples to his friends. Try this, he says, vibrating through his chair. It's good for everything. And for a few glorious, jittery years, people believe him. Mothers slip a bit of cocaine syrup into their children's cough medicine, mostly so the kids will stop coughing and start reciting the alphabet at twice the normal speed. There are even cocaine-enriched chewing gums, ideal for long afternoons, late-night study sessions, or your child's first spelling bee. If your baby is teething, rub a little on the gums. Soon everyone is smiling, or at least wide-eyed and eerily quiet. It's not just medicine, either. Cocaine is showing up in foods, wines, and tonics. The French are importing coca leaf wine by the barrel. American bartenders are slipping just a dash into cocktails. Pharmacists are mixing it into elixirs, sold as reliable brain tonics. Nobody is counting dosages. The only side effect anyone mentions is sustained productivity. People knit faster, write longer, walk further. You feel so good, you might even buy a second corset just for fun. Of course, not everyone is convinced. Some old-school preachers mutter about unnatural enthusiasm. A few doctors, slightly ahead of the curve, notice their patients are talking very fast and sleeping very little. But most people ignore these minor details. After all, how bad can it be if it comes in a candy tin with a picture of a smiling child? The real question isn't why cocaine is everywhere. It's how long it will take before anyone notices the downside. For now, though, America's most popular ingredient is hope, bottled and sold with a flourish. Your dentist offers cocaine for dental pain. Your pharmacist offers it for the blues. Your favorite soda fountain adds it for the thrill. In a world before warning labels, everyone is just a little bit superhuman, a little bit restless, and a lot more likely to clean their house at midnight. And you just wanted a pick-me-up. Instead, you got a chemical revolution, one spoonful at a time. Before you even tasted Coca-Cola, you saw it everywhere, plastered across handbills, painted on the side of barns, and shouted from pharmacy windows like a carnival barker with a PhD in persuasive nonsense. If you lived in 1886 Atlanta, you couldn't walk a block without bumping into an advertisement promising the intellectual beverage and temperance drink that would refresh the body and invigorate the mind. It was a time when nobody trusted their water, everybody distrusted their doctor, and nearly everyone placed absolute faith in a poster with enough fancy typeface. The marketing wasn't subtle. Forget influencer campaigns and hashtags. This was guerrilla warfare by ink and brush. Coca-Cola was sold as the ultimate health tonic, a magical elixir for headaches, fatigue, indigestion, neuralgia, and the mysterious ailment known as spring fever, which, to be fair, might just have been pollen and existential dread. You didn't just drink Coca-Cola. You imbibed progress, modernity, and the possibility that your most boring Wednesday could become a story worth telling. And oh, the testimonials. The original ads promised it would fix everything except your marriage, and even then, you might care less about your spouse's snoring. Letters poured in from satisfied customers, swearing that one glass of Coca-Cola made their headaches vanish, their nerves steady, and their outlook on life go from despairing to slightly euphoric. If you believed the marketing, Coca-Cola was not just a beverage, it was a life coach, a therapist, and a reliable babysitter, all for 5 cents a glass. But behind every bold claim was a sly, knowing wink. Sure, it relieves exhaustion. Sure, it's a delicious, refreshing, invigorating drink. But the real secret was right there in the fine print: Coca and Cola. The name said it all, but the ads preferred to dance around the subject. Contains the valuable tonic and nerve-stimulant properties of the coca plant and cola nuts. Translation: this is a legal stimulant smoothie with sugar, spice, and everything nice, plus a little extra that will help you alphabetize your sock drawer at 2 a.m. The real genius, though, was in selling Coca-Cola as a temperance drink. The temperance movement was out in force, shaming whiskey, shutting down bars, and declaring war on hangovers. Alcohol was the enemy. But Coca-Cola? That was a loophole big enough to drive a parade through. Here was a drink you could enjoy in public, at work, or even at Sunday school without raising an eyebrow. It was the respectable high, the family-friendly buzz. Parents loved it. Preachers nodded approvingly. Your local pharmacist called it invigorating with a straight face and sold more glasses in a day than most bars did in a week. Soon, pharmacies put up fresh signs. Drink Coca-Cola, the most wonderful drink in the world. Clerks wore buttons, cash registers rang, and soda jerks honed their pouring technique like Olympic athletes. Each glass was a 5-cent lottery ticket for a better life, or at least a better afternoon, and every sip came with a free side of hope. The hype grew. Word of mouth did what even the most dramatic print ad couldn't. Stories spread of miraculous recoveries, late-night productivity, and spontaneous kitchen cleaning. Neighbors competed for who could drink the most before noon. If you didn't like Coca-Cola, you were either lying or suspected of being not quite right. Sales soared. The city buzzed. Even people who normally avoided trends found themselves reaching for the signature glass, just to see what all the fuss was about. Of course, the line between health tonic and hype was as blurry as a caffeine rush at midnight. Was it a miracle cure, or just sugar, fizz, and hope with a jolt of questionable legality? In 1886, nobody cared. The posters promised, the soda fountain delivered, and you left the pharmacy feeling a little more optimistic and a lot more awake. Who needs proof when you've got marketing this good? Step through the swinging door of your neighborhood pharmacy, and you're not just walking into a place that sells soap and headache powders. You're entering the secret lair of the 19th century's most underappreciated creative geniuses, the pharmacists. Sure, you think of them today as the people who politely ignore your embarrassing prescription requests at CVS. But in the 1880s, these were the original mixologists, shaking, stirring, and improvising in a wild west of syrups, powders, and things that fizzed and glowed in the dark. Behind the counter stands a man in a spotless white coat, waxed mustache glinting, sleeves rolled up like he's about to wrestle a grizzly, or at least a stubborn syrup pump. He knows every ailment in town, every rumor worth hearing, and more chemistry than a modern energy drink factory. His hands never stop moving, grinding a powder, measuring a drop, dashing in a hint of something brown from a mysterious bottle labeled Elixir of Life. Probably. He's part scientist, part bartender, and part small-town therapist. You approach with a headache and the vague sense that your life needs a little more excitement. He listens gravely, nods, and then launches into action. No pill bottles here. He's mixing you something custom, with a recipe that only exists in his head and may never be repeated. He slides you a glass. The surface sparkles. There's a twist of citrus peel for flourish. And somewhere in the depths, a dangerous amount of sugar and possibly a pharmaceutical ingredient the government hasn't heard about yet. Customers gather, some for relief, some for gossip, and a few just for the spectacle. The soda fountain behind the counter is the centerpiece. A temple of taps, levers, glass bottles, and exotic scents. The pharmacist, or soda jerk, if you're feeling cheeky, operates it with the dexterity of a pianist. He offers a dozen flavors, all of them syrupy and a little bit suspicious, but the star attraction is Coca-Cola. He pours, stirs, and slides glass after glass across the counter, each one a minor miracle of chemistry and blind faith. But he's not just peddling soft drinks. This is a one-man wellness movement. Wellness in the sense that you feel better immediately. Consequences be damned. The pharmacy shelves are lined with tinctures promising to restore feminine vigor, soothe nervous complaints, or cure what ails you. Ingredients include everything from coca leaves to opium, alcohol, peppermint, and things labeled herbal secret, which you suspect is just parsley. But it's working, so who cares? Locals trust him more than any doctor. After all, the pharmacist is here every day, ready to listen and willing to experiment. If the first syrup doesn't cure you, he'll try a new one tomorrow. There's no FDA, no paperwork, and certainly no liability insurance. If you're feeling lucky, you can even ask for something extra. He'll wink, drop in a bit more syrup, maybe add a mystery tincture, and send you out the door buzzing with good spirits and minor confusion. And it's not just medicine. He dispenses life advice, marriage counseling, parenting tips, business schemes, invest in beekeeping, and the occasional conspiracy theory about what's really in the mayor's tonic. If you linger long enough, you'll overhear more secrets than the local priest, and you'll be sworn to silence by the second glass. Kids come in for a treat, adults for a break, and the elderly just to see what's new. The pharmacy is part social club, part laboratory, part barely controlled experiment. Every drink, every cure, every wild new syrup is a testament to the pharmacist's creativity, optimism, and total disregard for boring drinks. So next time you pop into a drugstore, remember, it was once a playground for the country's most fearless mixologists. And for a brief, sparkling window in American history, your neighborhood pharmacist was the only bartender you really needed. Welcome to Atlanta, Georgia, circa 1886, a city bustling with trains, ambition, and a heroic disregard for regulatory oversight. You arrive by rail, greeted by a skyline of smokestacks, clapboard houses, and half-finished dreams. Atlanta is a place where fortunes are made overnight, where New South optimism collides with Reconstruction reality, and where nobody reads the fine print unless it's on a bottle promising immediate relief from modern troubles. Walk down Peachtree Street and you'll see it all. Bankers in shiny new suits, horse-drawn carriages dodging stray dogs, and vendors hawking everything from roasted peanuts to miracle cures. The city hums with a restlessness that can't be blamed on caffeine alone. Though, as you'll soon find out, it certainly helps. Atlanta in the 1880s is a petri dish for invention, reinvention, and the casual breaking of any law that hasn't been written yet. Everything is up for grabs, including the definition of medicine. Pharmacies pop up on every corner, selling elixirs with names like Dr. Blount's invigorating syrup and Professor Todd's reliable nerve food. The ingredients are a mystery, but the labels are pure poetry. Words like vitalizing, invigorating, and herbal remedy plastered in looping Victorian script. If you can spell it fancy, you can sell it legally. Regulations? Not here, not now. As long as you pay your taxes and keep the spelling flowery, Atlanta's city fathers look the other way. The city is alive with energy, sometimes natural, sometimes imported in barrels marked for medicinal use only. This is a town built on risk and reward. People move fast, talk fast, and, thanks to the latest craze at the soda fountain, think even faster. There's an endless parade of peddlers, inventors, hucksters and dreamers, all convinced they'll be the next big thing. You can spot the new arrivals by their hopefulness and the way they still try to cross the street without fear. And while the city's politicians give rousing speeches about order and progress, the real law is written at the soda fountain and behind the pharmacist's counter. The rules? If it sells, it stays. If it tastes good, it's medicine. If it makes you feel something, anything at all, it becomes an overnight sensation. Coca-Cola fits right in. Nobody questions a syrup that claims to cure headaches and hangovers as long as it keeps the customers coming back for more. The city's leading medical minds are as likely to endorse it as they are to secretly invest in it. Atlanta's energy is contagious. There are new factories going up every week, and the population grows faster than you can say municipal plumbing. There's an endless appetite for innovation, and nobody has time for second guessing. The newspapers tout every invention as the marvel of the modern age, whether it's a typewriter, a telephone, or a slightly improved mustache wax. Nobody knows if the future will work out, but everyone is determined to be there when it happens. Even the weather is ambitious, hotter than it should be, wetter when it shouldn't be, and always full of surprises. The city is equal parts southern charm and relentless hustle, a place where yesterday's disaster becomes today's clever marketing strategy. Fire, rebuild, flood, relocate, scandal, rebrand. Atlanta's unofficial motto: if at first you don't succeed, print new labels. By the time evening falls, gas lamps flicker to life, and the city glows with a sense of possibility. Pharmacies are still open, the soda fountains are still hissing, and someone, somewhere, is tinkering with the next great concoction. In Atlanta, the laws are loose, the language is lush, and as long as you spell it with enough flourish, even the wildest idea is welcome. So take a seat at the counter, order something with a name you can barely pronounce, and toast to a city where everything is possible and almost nothing is forbidden. You step out into the bright, chaotic Atlanta sun, and you're immediately greeted by a parade of hand-painted signs, each one more hopeful than the last. Try Dr. Smiley's liver lightning, Professor Pepper's asthma annihilator, Mrs. Wellborn's marvelous mother's mixture. This is not a medical district. It's a cross between a bazaar and a late-night infomercial. Welcome to the wild world of patent medicines, where every bottle promises hope and delivers, if nothing else, a memorable afternoon. Your options are endless. If your joints ache, there's Pain Be Gone tonic, a syrup the color of regret. If you can't sleep, doctor, Goodnight's Nerve Elixir claims to knock you out so fast you'll wake up next week wondering what year it is. For the ambitious, Vim and Vigor Wine boasts increased stamina, improved confidence, and, if the fine print is to be believed, the ability to wrestle bears. Results may vary. The best part? Nobody is required to say what's actually in any of these magical mixtures. You wander the aisles of your local pharmacy, or more likely, the pop-up wagon outside the fairground. Bottles glint in the sun, corked and sealed with a little paper ribbon for extra authority. Some even come in custom boxes decorated with pictures of healthy-looking children and impossibly happy grandmothers. There are testimonials from people who claim to have been cured of general malaise, the vapors, or spontaneous melancholy illnesses that may or may not exist, but definitely sound impressive when you repeat them at church. The truth is, patent medicines are a legal loophole so big you could drive a circus train through it. There's no patent required, no proof of efficacy, and absolutely no FDA. If you can dream up a catchy name, slap a picture of a friendly doctor on the label, and mix together some alcohol, opium, cocaine, chloroform, peppermint, or herbs from the Orient, you've got yourself a product. Safety testing consists of trying a little and seeing what happens. If it doesn't kill you outright, congratulations. It's ready for sale. Salesmen, sometimes called medicine men, sometimes just professional optimists, travel from town to town with horse-drawn wagons, musical acts, and a lot of confidence. They set up in the town square, shout about the latest miracle, and hand out free samples to anyone not quick enough to escape. You buy a bottle because your neighbor swears it cured his lumbago. And frankly, after last night's dinner, you're ready to believe anything. Of course, side effects are a mystery, and that's part of the fun. If you find yourself giggling uncontrollably at the preacher's sermon, it's probably just the mild stimulant in your morning tonic. If you don't remember where you put your shoes, blame it on restorative herbs. Nobody asks too many questions. If something actually works, it becomes legend. If it doesn't, you just wait for the next traveling salesman to pass through. Patent medicines aren't just for people. There are tonics for horses, dogs, and even chickens. Uncle Bob's poultry potion claims to increase egg production and make your hens more cheerful. If you drink it yourself by accident, you might end up with a craving for worms and a new appreciation for sunrise. The sheer variety is mind-boggling. Some are loaded with sugar and alcohol, designed to make you feel better instantly. Others are so bitter you wonder if suffering is just part of the cure. Children get their own syrups, now with extra morphine, while the elderly are encouraged to fortify their vigor with anything that comes in a fancy bottle. The wild world of patent medicines is a carnival of hope, hype, and high spirits, sometimes literally. You hand over your nickel, pop the cork, and take a swig. Not entirely sure what's inside, but absolutely certain you're part of the greatest gamble in American history. And in this era, that's just how medicine works. The day has finally arrived. It's Atlanta, 1886, and you're about to take your first sip of the most talked-about concoction in town. Jacob's Pharmacy is buzzing, not just with customers, but with a kind of electricity that only happens when something genuinely new is about to change everyone's afternoon. You shuffle in with the crowd, clutching a nickel and the kind of cautious hope that only comes from years of trying dubious patent medicines and surviving most of them. The counter is lined with glassware, and behind it stands the pharmacist, sleeves rolled up, mustache twitching in anticipation. He pours a dark, syrupy liquid from a squat brown bottle labeled Coca-Cola syrup, Dr. Pemberton's formula. You watch as he adds a shot of chilled carbonated water from the brass tap, the fizz rising with an enthusiasm that's almost contagious. He stirs the mixture briskly, hands you the glass, and waits, half expecting you to faint, complain, or possibly ascend to a higher plane of existence. You take your first sip. The sensation is immediate, a shock of cold, a burst of sweetness, and a peculiar tingling that starts at the tip of your tongue and works its way to the part of your brain responsible for spelling your own name. The flavor is unlike anything you've tasted before. It's richer than root beer, more mysterious than sarsaparilla, and with a subtle bite that hints at what exactly? Citrus? Spice? Ambition? You can't decide. You only know you want another. Around you, the room holds its breath, waiting for someone to go first. An elderly woman sips delicately, then grins in a way that makes you think she's about to start a jazz band. A tired clerk, expecting nothing but disappointment, lights up like a Christmas tree. A child giggles so hard he nearly drops his glass. No one seems to know exactly what's in this stuff, but everyone can agree. It doesn't taste like medicine, it tastes like the future, and possibly, just a little bit, like trouble. The reactions are immediate and contagious. People ask for second servings. Word spreads beyond the pharmacy's four walls. Soon, rumors run wild. There's a new drink in town, and it doesn't just cure headaches, it might just cure your general lack of enthusiasm for Mondays. You overhear someone say, "I felt better before I even finished the glass." Another swears he's never slept better, though he admits he hasn't actually tried to sleep since his third serving. Even the pharmacist seems surprised. He expected skepticism, complaints, maybe a few dramatic coughs or whispered threats of lawsuits. Instead, he's looking at a line out the door and a sudden, urgent need to order more glassware. No one asks for a refund. No one spits it out. Instead, you hear laughter, see smiles, and witness the rare spectacle of strangers exchanging compliments on their new favorite beverage. A few skeptics linger. One man inspects the glass suspiciously, swirls it like fine wine, and finally sips. His eyebrows shoot up, and he nods, as if to say, "I'll allow it." Others ask what's in it, but the answer is always vague. Secret ingredients, exotic flavors, a little bit of magic. The truth is, nobody really knows, and nobody really cares. For the first time, in a long time, you're drinking something that doesn't taste like a dare or a punishment. The crowd lingers, conversations bubble up, and Jacob's Pharmacy is transformed into the city's unofficial clubhouse. Even the grumpiest customers leave with a bottle, or at least a story. You realize that Coca-Cola isn't just a drink. It's a mood, a movement, a shared secret between you and every other curious soul in Atlanta. And as you step back into the heat of Peachtree Street, you can't help but smile. You've just tasted something extraordinary. And, for better or worse, you're ready for another round. You're standing behind the counter at Jacob's Pharmacy, sleeves rolled up, hands sticky, and eyebrows raised in perpetual anticipation. The back room is cluttered with syrup bottles, citrus peels, measuring spoons, and the vague scent of botanical ambition. Welcome to the next stage of the Coca-Cola experiment, where every glass is a minor miracle of chemistry, choreography, and mild panic. Mixing syrup might sound simple, but in the 1880s, it's more like hosting a high-stakes seance with sugar, soda, and fate. You eye the bottles, some labeled, some not. Some with labels that look like they were written by a caffeinated squirrel. There's coca extract, cola nut infusion, a generous dose of sugar syrup, and a lineup of proprietary oils that would make even the most seasoned perfumer squint. The measurements? Loosely based on science, but mostly guided by the time-honored method of a little more won't hurt. The goal? Consistency. The reality? Controlled chaos. First, you pour a measured, or close enough, glug of syrup into a tall, heavy-bottomed glass. It's dark, thick, and as glossy as a new patent leather shoe. The syrup alone is a taste adventure, rich, herbal, and slightly alarming. The pharmacy's soda jerk, barely out of short pants but already armed with a sense of showmanship, stands ready. His job, add fizz, flair, and not accidentally ignite the counter. Now comes the magic. Carbonated water. In an era when electricity is optional and running water is a luxury, the soda fountain is both a marvel and a mystery. The apparatus hisses, rumbles, and spits as the soda jerk pulls the lever with the precision of a telegraph operator announcing the end of a war. A stream of cold, bubbly water floods the glass, and instantly a fizzing storm rises to the top. Bubbles race for the surface like they're late for a train. You stir, quickly, but not too quickly, lest you trigger an overflow and risk sticky humiliation. The spoon clinks against the glass, sending aromatic clouds of spice, citrus, and faintly medicinal intrigue into the air. The drink settles into a perfectly balanced swirl, sweet, bright, and bracing, with a layer of foam like a silk hat on a Sunday preacher. Of course, not every batch is perfect. Sometimes the fizz fizzes too much, and the syrup makes a break for freedom, cascading down the counter and onto the pharmacy cat. Other times, the mix is off, and the result tastes like optimism filtered through an old sock. There are no factory controls here. Every drink is an act of trust, hope, and a little bit of Victorian bravado. Customers watch, transfixed. Each glass is mixed to order, tailored to taste, and offered with the pharmacist's best poker face. Someone asks for a little extra kick, and the soda jerk obliges, risking a double shot of the secret syrup. Others want less fizz, more fizz, or on rare rebellious days, a combination of syrups that has never before existed and probably shouldn't again. The process is a spectacle. Kids crowd around, noses pressed to the glass display, eyes wide at the alchemy. Adults, usually so stern, can't help but smile as the bubbles rise. Even the old-timers, who've tasted every tonic and elixir Atlanta has to offer, find themselves lining up for another glass. The act of mixing isn't just functional. It's theatre, chemistry, and a subtle promise that, just maybe, this glass will be the best one yet. You wipe your hands on your apron, survey the sticky battlefield, and realize this is the new heart of Atlanta, not just a pharmacy, but a stage for the daily drama of invention. The fizz subsides, the syrup settles, and another satisfied customer leaves, buzzing, chattering, and planning their return. Mixing syrup, carbonating chaos. It's messy, unpredictable, and absolutely irresistible. You picture your Victorian-era grandma as a pillar of good sense and steely discipline, knitting socks by candlelight, scolding unruly children, and never missing a church social. But if you look closely at her recipe box, medicine cabinet, and the suspiciously energetic glint in her eye, you'll realize something important. There's a strong chance your grandma was just a little bit coked up, and she wasn't alone. In 19th century America, there was nothing unusual about grandmothers, mothers, and even the family dog getting a little pharmaceutical assistance with the day's chores. Cocaine was the wellness hack of its age, and if you had a headache, a nagging cough, or the nerves, you could count on grandma to have a solution, usually in the form of a bottle, powder, or, if you were lucky, a homemade tonic that tasted like Christmas, sin, and a mild brush with immortality. Take a stroll into her parlor, and you'll see the evidence. Neat rows of patent medicines, jars of relief powder, and a decanter of French wine of coca for special occasions. The label promises health, energy, and a cheery disposition. No mention of side effects like spontaneous poetry writing or reorganizing the pantry at 3 a.m. Sunday afternoons, the punch bowl isn't just the life of the party. It's an undisclosed science experiment. Grandma ladles out cups with a secret smile, and nobody questions why the quilting circle suddenly starts a speed round. Grandma's nerve tonic is the household MVP, used for everything from soothing teething babies to calming hysterical uncles and boosting the stamina of weary farmhands. If you got a cold, Grandma dabbed a little cocaine syrup on your tongue. Toothache? Numb it with a dab straight from the jar. Restless baby? The family remedy knocks out more than just the crying. For the truly unlucky, Grandma's chest rub contained enough camphor, menthol, and powdered coca leaf to keep you feeling restored for days. Or at least until you bounced off the wallpaper. No one blinked an eye at this. Cocaine was as respectable as baking powder and much more fun at holiday gatherings. Even advice columns endorsed it, suggesting that a good woman kept her cupboard stocked and her family's vigor topped up. There's a reason why those old black and white photos show everyone so upright and wide-eyed. Half the crowd is running on enthusiasm, the other half on unregulated pharmaceuticals. At church socials, the lemonade is suspiciously popular. Grandma claims her secret ingredient is citrus zest, but the congregation knows better. Small-town America is buzzing, literally, and nobody minds if hymn singing gets a little frantic. Old men tell the same story 3 times, and the kids have energy to play tag until well after sunset. The only downside is the family dentist, who suddenly finds himself in high demand and low supply of patients. Of course, every grandma swears by her own recipe, passed down in hushed tones or jotted on a card marked for emergencies only. Some families prefer the convenience of store-bought syrups, while others stick to homebrew, boiling, straining, and flavoring the tonic to perfection, sometimes with a hint of ginger, sometimes with a healthy dollop of brandy for the nerves. The results speak for themselves. Quilts finished in record time, bread baked, chores done, and gossip exchanged at breakneck speed. Family reunions end with everyone shaking hands, hugging, and planning to meet again next Sunday, same time, same dose. If you could go back and visit, you'd marvel at Grandma's productivity and wonder how she managed it all. The answer, of course, was simple. A secret weapon in a blue glass bottle, and the willingness to use it liberally. Your Victorian grandma wasn't just tough, she was, for at least part of every day, superhuman. And now you know why the family tree has so many energetic branches. You're riding the high of your second, or was it fifth glass of Coca-Cola, feeling sharper than you've felt in months. Your hands are steady, your worries have receded into the wallpaper, and the world suddenly seems like a place where anything is possible. Except, perhaps, sleep. Life is good. Or at least, life is loud, bright, and tinged with the aftertaste of questionable decisions. But as the fizz fades, you notice something else. A suspicious ache in your jaw, a twinge when you bite into your afternoon biscuit, and the dawning realization that your teeth, like your inhibitions, might not survive the decade. Welcome to the hidden world of side effects. A place where every miracle drink comes with a little fine print, provided you can read it through the sugar haze. In late 19th century America, nobody's really talking about consequences. The newspaper ads are full of testimonials. I drank Coca-Cola and wrote my memoir in one sitting. Never felt better. My children finally listened to me. There's not a single warning, unless you count. Do not spill on fine upholstery. People are far too busy enjoying their newfound zest for life to notice that their molars are quietly surrendering, one by one. The first and most obvious culprit is sugar. Coca-Cola is sweet, deliciously, shockingly sweet. Like dessert you don't need an excuse for. Every glass is a festival for your taste buds and an all-out war on your enamel. You start out with a dazzling smile, but after a few months of daily indulgence, you're suddenly familiar with that dull, throbbing pain that means it's time to visit the dentist again. Unfortunately, in this era, dentistry is less gentle cleaning and more survival challenge. The same man who sells you tooth powder might also pull your teeth with pliers and strong moral support. But sugar isn't the only thing to worry about. The other magic ingredient, cocaine, is quietly going about its business, numbing pain, boosting confidence, and helping you finish projects that haven't even started yet. For a brief, glorious window, you can do no wrong. Tasks seem easier, conversations are more interesting, and even the weather seems better. You are the best version of yourself until, that is, you try to fall asleep or eat anything harder than a ripe peach. The less glamorous reality sets in. Dry mouth, tender gums, and a vague feeling that you've been chewing on gravel. Dentists, previously underemployed, now find themselves busier than ever. Cavities blossom like spring wildflowers. Fillings are primitive, usually made from whatever is on hand, tin, gold, or, in desperate moments, old coins hammered flat. Every trip to the dentist is an adventure, one that might involve whiskey, screaming, and an audience. Kids are especially vulnerable. They love the sweet taste, the tingle, the novelty. Parents marvel at their sudden energy and willingness to scrub the floorboards at 11 p.m. The trade-off? Deciduous teeth that depart early, leaving a generation of children who whistle when they talk and chew their dinner on one side of their mouth. Of course, nobody's connecting the dots just yet. The city's adults blame modern stress, acidic foods, or unfortunate genetics. Some even see ruined teeth as a status symbol, proof that you can afford the best the soda fountain has to offer. Denture sales quietly soar, and the local tooth puller can finally afford that new suit. Still, for every sore jaw and sleepless night, There are a dozen stories of inspiration and accomplishment. The secret to success, it turns out, is a blend of sugar, caffeine, and just a sprinkle of chemical overconfidence. You'll pay the price later, but for now, you'll keep sipping, keep smiling, with what teeth remain, and keep believing in the magic of Coca-Cola, side effects and all. You might think Coca-Cola's journey to global domination was smooth, a single syrup rising above a sea of bland competitors. You would be wrong. The late 19th century was the golden age of wild ideas and wilder beverages, when every druggist with access to a barrel and a hint of a mustache thought he could invent the next big thing. If you could mix, stir, and slap a label on it, you had yourself a tonic. Never mind whether it tasted like hope or hot tar. The landscape is crowded, noisy, and very sticky. There's Dr. Pepper, arriving hot on Coca-Cola's heels in Texas, bringing with it the mysterious promise of 23 flavors, most of which taste suspiciously like prunes and ambition. There's Moxie, advertising itself as nerve food and boldly claiming to cure whatever ails you, assuming your main problem is a desperate need for bitterness and regret. And let's not forget Vin Mariani, a French wine laced with coca leaves and a healthy disregard for moderation, beloved by popes and overworked writers alike. Everyone's got a recipe, a claim, and a small army of questionable testimonials. Every soda fountain becomes a test kitchen. Pharmacists tinker late into the night, hoping to hit on a formula that's not just invigorating but also vaguely palatable. Some try herbs, some try roots, and a few reckless souls experiment with actual meat extracts. The less said about beef phosphate, the better. Flavors run the gamut from bracingly herbal to should have stayed in the garden. If you survived a glass of celery cola, congratulations, you're now immune to disappointment. Some rivals come close. Pepsi, originally called Brad's Drink, starts life as a digestive aid, riding in on the coattails of the cola craze. For a while, it's the toast of pharmacy counters in North Carolina, until a sugar shortage nearly sends it into obscurity. Other would-be empires collapse at the first taste test. The biggest challenge isn't invention, it's survival. Bottles explode in delivery wagons. Corks pop off in the summer heat, spraying the unsuspecting with sticky optimism. Labels fade, flavors sour, and lawsuits pile up like discarded lemon peels. Advertising goes to war. Posters shout over each other from every lamppost. Some promise youth in a bottle. Others guarantee a new lease on life. Drummers, salesmen, not percussionists, roam the countryside, offering free samples and dire warnings about rival brands. Don't trust that new tonic from across town. My cousin lost his hair and his wife just smelling it. Each drink is more than a beverage. It's a lifestyle, a gamble, and a potential lawsuit waiting to happen. Occasionally, a competitor gets clever. There are attempts to out-Coke Coca-Cola with names like Coke, Africola, and MyCola, each one sailing dangerously close to copyright disaster. Some even try to disguise their formula by adding licorice or bizarre spices, hoping no one notices the aftertaste of desperation. For every Coca-Cola, there are 100 fizzled failures and a handful of accidental successes. The path to soda stardom is littered with the glass shards of ambition, the sticky floors of ruined pharmacies, and the echo of 1,000 slogans that almost worked. In the end, Coca-Cola wins not because it's the only game in town, but because it's the one people actually want to drink twice. The competition? It brews, it bubbles, and, more often than not, it quietly disappears, leaving only a faint memory and a cautionary tale for the next generation of beverage dreamers. Imagine, for a moment, you're standing at the counter of your local pharmacy in 1890. You're tired. You're achy. You're hoping for something that will carry you through your shift, your chores, and maybe the existential dread that creeps in around 4 p.m. The solution? You order a glass of Coca-Cola. No ID required, no whispered password, and absolutely no moral panic. In this bright, bustling age, you're about to experience what modern energy drink companies can only dream of, the legal high. The secret lies in the blend. Cocaine, extracted from South American coca leaves, meets caffeine, coaxed from the bitter cola nut. Each is a powerhouse on its own, but together, that's when things get interesting. The result is a beverage that doesn't just nudge you awake, it practically launches you out of your seat. It's a rush that starts behind your eyeballs and travels straight to your fingertips, leaving you convinced you could solve algebra, build a barn, and finally have that difficult conversation with your cousin. You take your first sip. The cold fizz pricks your tongue, the sweetness swirls around your teeth, and almost instantly you feel your heart pick up its pace. Your mind clears, your thoughts race, and suddenly your to-do list seems less like a burden and more like an exciting challenge. You feel capable, energized, and, if we're honest, maybe a little too enthusiastic about reorganizing your sock drawer. It's not subtle, but who wants subtlety when you can have victory in a glass? This is the era when pep is a lifestyle, and being alert isn't just admired, it's expected. Workers stop in for a glass on the way to the factory. Housewives order a dose to power through laundry and relentless housework, and students swear by it for last-minute cramming. The only warning is an unspoken understanding. If you drink too much, you might be found alphabetizing your neighbor's pantry at midnight. Still, nobody's worried. Coca-Cola's secret is safe, its magic unregulated, and its biggest critics just wish they'd thought of it first. Doctors hand out prescriptions for nervous exhaustion, and nobody blinks when the patient requests a double. It's medicine, after all, refreshing, effective, and blessed by both science and the lack of federal law. Caffeine and cocaine are twin engines of productivity, driving America forward with a fizz and a smile. Of course, some people wonder if it's all a bit much. A handful of ministers mutter about overexcitement, and one local doctor claims that a patient wrote 3 novels in a week before passing out face first in a pie. But for most, the mood is buoyant, the energy contagious. Why question the recipe for happiness when you're getting so much done? The competition scrambles to catch up. Rival tonics try to outdo the original by adding more caffeine or a hint of mysterious herbal stimulants. None can match that euphoric, jittery edge, a perfect storm of legal pleasure, cheap sugar, and enough active ingredients to make a hummingbird sweat. America is hooked, in the best way. And the cash registers sing. In time, the questions will grow louder. Regulations will creep in. Formulas will change. But for now, you bask in the glow of pure possibility. With each bubbly glass, you're living proof that history's greatest highs didn't always come with a warning label. They came with a wink, a fizz, and a rapidly beating heart. So go ahead, take another sip. The world isn't waiting, and neither are you. You've tasted Coca-Cola at the pharmacy, ordered it by the glass, and maybe even queued up twice in one afternoon. No judgment. Everyone's doing it. But now, word is spreading. There are whispers in Atlanta, then across the South. What if you didn't have to trek to the soda fountain at all? What if you could take that same fizzy, nerve-tingling magic home? The answer arrives in the shape of a glass bottle, a leap of faith, and the first true Coca-Cola factories. At first, the idea seems almost scandalous. The original recipe is a guarded secret, mixed behind pharmacy counters by trusted hands, and sometimes they're unsupervised children. But soon, demand outpaces the soda jerks. People want Coca-Cola at picnics, on trains, and at awkward family reunions. They want to hide a bottle in their lunch pail or offer one to a neighbor without dragging them to the pharmacy. The solution: bottling the magic, one sticky, unpredictable batch at a time. The earliest bottling operations are more improvisation than industry. Imagine a dusty warehouse, barrels stacked to the ceiling, and a crew of optimists armed with corks, buckets, and the nervous energy of people who know one bad batch could flood the entire block with syrup. Glass bottles are expensive, fragile, and notoriously unreliable. Corks pop at random, sometimes in the middle of the night. One wrong move and you're ankle deep in what the papers will later call an exciting local beverage spill. Hygiene is a concept still under development. Factory floors are swept, sometimes. Workers fill, cork, and label bottles by hand, occasionally taste testing a batch, for science, and definitely not for the thrill. The syrup is mixed in big gleaming kettles, then blended with soda water and poured with care, sometimes too much, sometimes not enough. Every bottle is a gamble. Will it fizz? Will it leak? Will it survive the wagon ride to the next town? It's a game of glass roulette, and you're just hoping your delivery doesn't explode before you can drink it. Despite the chaos, the bottles begin to appear everywhere. At Sunday picnics, dusty train depots, and even the occasional swanky dinner party. The Coca-Cola logo, looping and proud, becomes a kind of passport, proof that you're up to date, modern, and slightly addicted. Neighbors compare their collections, arguing about the best way to chill a bottle and whether it tastes better sipped slowly or swigged before anyone else gets a chance. The factories expand. Machines arrive, bringing a sense of order and a lot more noise. Corkers get replaced by automated cappers. Labels are glued on straight, or at least straighter. Production ramps up, and soon you can buy a bottle of Coca-Cola in towns that haven't even installed streetlights yet. Every new case is a tiny miracle, a triumph over gravity, glass, and human error. Bottling changes everything. The drink is no longer just a local curiosity. It's a phenomenon. Families stock up for summer. Children trade empty bottles for marbles or dubious favors. The soda fountain loses its monopoly, but nobody cares. Now, you can take Coca-Cola anywhere, on the porch, to work, to the ends of the earth. All it takes is a nickel and a little bit of faith in glass. And that's how the magic spreads, not just by word of mouth, but by bottle, by crate, by the determined hands of factory workers who, for a while, had the sweetest job in America. It's a Sunday afternoon, and you're sitting in a stiff wooden pew, listening to a preacher warn about the evils of alcohol. The temperance movement is gaining steam, and every respectable organization in town, church groups, ladies' auxiliaries, suspiciously sober politicians, wants to rid America of its most notorious vice. Whiskey, beer, even wine. All are blamed for broken families, lost fortunes, and late-night square dancing gone terribly wrong. The crusade for temperance is everywhere. Handbills flutter through the streets, showing drunken husbands slumped in alleys and innocent children gazing longingly at pitchers of lemonade. Temperance rallies fill town squares, promising salvation through sobriety and the occasional off-key hymn. It's a movement built on discipline, moral fervor, and the collective hope that if you just pour out enough gin, everyone will finally be able to make it to work on time. But here's the twist. While the preachers rage against the bottle, something strange is happening at the pharmacy counter. There, in the gleaming oasis of the soda fountain, the same people who once filled their flasks now line up for a different kind of buzz. Coca-Cola, touted as a temperance drink and healthful tonic, is flying out the door, poured in tall glasses and enjoyed without a whisper of scandal. Coca-Cola is the loophole everyone's been searching for. It doesn't cloud your mind or slur your speech. Well, not until the third or fourth glass. You can serve it to your children, your pastor, and your maiden aunt with equal pride. The local church picnic, once a sober affair with tepid lemonade, now fizzes with laughter and mysterious new levels of productivity. The Sunday school teachers are suddenly organizing games, painting murals, and setting records for pie-eating contests. Nobody is fighting, everyone is just slightly animated. As the movement picks up steam, pharmacies, and soda fountains double down on their marketing. Coca-Cola is a family beverage, a drink for the responsible, upstanding citizen who still wants to feel just a little bit wild after dinner. Ads proclaim it as the answer to intemperance, the drink that lets you say no to whiskey and yes to whatever it is you feel when the caffeine and cocaine hit at the same time. It's the safest rebellion you'll ever join. The irony is delicious. While America's moral guardians are trying to stamp out one addiction, another is bubbling up in every town and county. Church groups swap testimonials about how much better life is now that Uncle Lester drinks Coca-Cola instead of brandy. Nobody mentions that Uncle Lester now recites poetry at the top of his lungs and reorganizes the hymnals by color. For all their earnest intentions, the temperance crusaders have started an accidental revolution. By driving drinkers out of the saloon and into the soda fountain, they've created a new kind of social ritual. Gathering around a glass, swapping stories, and staying up past midnight with the help of a certain fizzy beverage. The soda jerk, once a humble employee, is now the life of the party, part therapist, part bartender, and part confessor. The revolution is polite, legal, and a little bit jittery. The temperance movement wins its victory, but not in the way it expected. In trying to cure America's thirst, it gave birth to an even bigger obsession. And as you sit there, sipping your fourth glass of Coca-Cola, you realize, sometimes, the best way to change the world is by accident, one carbonated loophole at a time. By now, the miracle tonic that once sat quietly behind the counter at Jacob's Pharmacy is everywhere. What started as a local curiosity, a delicious nerve tonic, a remedy for headaches, has become an unstoppable force. Coca-Cola has made the leap from whispered recommendation to full-blown national craze. You know it's gone mainstream when even your neighbor's dog is rumored to prefer it over water. It's not just Atlanta. News of this magical elixir spreads along train tracks and telegraph wires, riding in the pockets of traveling salesmen and the glowing testimonials of satisfied customers. If you live in Savannah or Street, Louis, you've heard the stories. There's a drink that can make your back stop hurting, help you finish your chores, and convince your in-laws that you're finally going places. The rumor mill churns out new powers for Coca-Cola every day. Some say it can sharpen your eyesight. Some swear it saved their marriage. And a few claim it's why their cow is suddenly giving more milk. Pharmacies everywhere rush to stock up. Bottling plants spring up in every corner of the South, each with their own interpretation of what makes the perfect batch. Glass bottles crisscross the country by wagon, train, and steamboat. Small towns compete to be the first on their block to carry the latest shipment, and soda jerks everywhere practice their pour, hoping to achieve the perfect fizz. Even the most skeptical, stone-faced customers can't resist the spectacle. At this point, Coca-Cola's marketing is less advertising campaign and more national movement. Posters and handbills claim it's a panacea for modern woes, from low spirits to sluggish digestion. Word of mouth turns every household into a focus group, every backyard picnic into a taste test. Kids trade empty bottles like baseball cards. Grown men brag about how many glasses they can drink in a single afternoon without blinking. Meanwhile, local doctors and pharmacists enjoy the boom. Sure, they're not entirely sure what's in the secret syrup, but business is booming and nobody seems to be dying, at least not any faster than usual. Town barbers keep a case or two in the back room for special customers. Even funeral homes have bottles on hand for those in need of a pick-me-up. Because nothing says celebration of life like a cold glass of something slightly mysterious and highly stimulating. Coca-Cola's status as a miracle cure has shifted. Now, it's less about fixing what ails you and more about being part of the trend. To turn down a glass is to announce yourself as suspicious, backward, or possibly even unpatriotic. Community events feature contests to see who can chug the most without burping. Church socials swap the lemonade for soda, and the organist plays twice as fast as before. Behind the scenes, the original creators scramble to keep up with demand. Ingredients arrive by the crate. Employees work long, buzzy hours. Recipes are tweaked, bottling lines lengthened, and the legend continues to grow. Coca-Cola is no longer a quiet promise of wellness. It's an invitation to join the future, one glass at a time. So as you stroll past your local soda fountain, listen for the hiss of the tap and the cheerful chatter of the crowd. The miracle has become the mainstream, the tonic is now a tradition, and America is officially hooked on the taste, the buzz, and the unstoppable feeling that with enough Coca-Cola, anything is possible. You've spent months, or has it been years, sipping Coca-Cola whenever life's little aches and annoyances flare up. At first, everything is wonderful. Your headaches are gone, your mood is up, and you've alphabetized the pantry more times than you can count. But as the craze spreads and the empty bottles pile up, a different kind of buzz begins to hum in the background. A faint, nervous question about whether all this good health might be coming at a price. It starts quietly. Maybe you notice your hands shaking a little, or you're wide awake at midnight with enough energy to repaint the porch. You hear a neighbor mention she can't sleep, or a friend admits he's developed a mysterious twitch in his left eye. People joke about the Coca-Cola jitters, but it doesn't take long for rumors to swirl. Too much of the new tonic might not be a good thing. Enter the doctors and the newspapers. What was once sold as a miracle is now, tentatively, called into question. Headlines appear, "Is your soda making you sick?" Experts warn of overstimulated nerves. A particularly memorable article describes a man who reportedly drank a dozen bottles in a single day and then tried to dig a new well in his front yard, using just his hands. Suddenly, nervous exhaustion, once blamed on the weather or marital stress, has a new suspect. The pharmacists are the first to hear complaints. Customers ask for weaker syrup, less fizz, or something a little more soothing. Some request the old formula, not realizing that the recipe is changing behind the scenes. Sales don't dip, not at first, but a cloud of suspicion begins to form, soft and slow, like a thunderstorm rolling in from the edge of town. Behind the pharmacy doors, there's a scramble to adjust. Whispers spread that the formula might be tweaked, that certain stimulating ingredients could quietly disappear. New advertisements stress the drink's purity, its wholesome qualities, and the virtues of moderation. Now, Coca-Cola isn't just about energy, it's about balance. The word invigorating is swapped for refreshing. The message is clear. If unstated, keep drinking, but maybe slow down a little. Doctors, meanwhile, become both critics and reluctant fans. They warn against overindulgence, recommend their patients cut back, and yet can't help but enjoy a glass themselves after a long, frazzled day. Some even prescribe Coca-Cola as a remedy for the overexcitement caused by, well, too much Coca-Cola. It's a neat little circle, and nobody talks about it too loudly. The real shift comes with the stories, told quietly at back fences and soda fountains. My aunt says her heart raced all night. My cousin can't keep her hands still. Uncle Frank was found sweeping the sidewalk at 3 in the morning, and now nobody trusts him with a broom. People begin to realize, perhaps a tonic this potent ought to come with a little caution. Still, few quit the habit. The taste, the ritual, and the buzz are too appealing. Instead, a new culture emerges. Moderation, mindful sipping, and the casual pretense that everything is perfectly fine. As the formula changes, so do people's expectations. Coca-Cola goes from miracle cure to everyday indulgence, still delicious, still popular, but now tinged with the wisdom that sometimes too much of a good thing can come with a twitch. And as you pour yourself just one more glass for the road, you nod in agreement with the rest of America. History's greatest fads always come with a gentle warning, sometimes written on the label and sometimes hiding in your own reflection. You've grown used to your daily glass of Coca-Cola, a reliable spark in the gloom, a secret handshake among the caffeinated, and the nation's unofficial productivity plan. But suddenly, a storm of suspicion brews. Whispers swirl in pharmacies and parlors. Is there really cocaine in the nation's favorite drink? Is that why the neighbor's garden has never looked better? Is this why your dentist now has a vacation home? Public concern begins to bubble, and for the first time, the country faces the awkward truth. That refreshing glass isn't just invigorating, it's mildly illegal in at least 3 European countries. Medical journals warn of cocaine habituation, and reformers gather for nervous meetings, fueled, ironically, by glasses of the very drink they now question. Ministers lecture about the perils of artificial stimulation, while their children sneak bottles behind the choir loft. Suddenly, moderation becomes the word of the day, and nobody is quite sure how to spell it. The newspapers catch on. Headlines like, "A drug in every glass," and "Is your soda fountain a gateway to madness?" appear, sandwiched between advertisements for mildly medicated tonics and miracle cures. Editorials scold America for its naivete. Cartoonists have a field day, drawing glassy-eyed soda jerks and jittery housewives stacking firewood at midnight. The panic is contagious. The government is taking notes, and suddenly the Coca-Cola company finds itself at the center of America's most polite scandal. In the boardrooms, alarm bells ring. The brand's future, built on the twin pillars of secrecy and syrup, now faces its greatest test. How do you take the cocaine out of Coca-Cola without admitting there was ever cocaine in Coca-Cola? The answer, as always, is to act fast, talk slow, and pray nobody reads the ingredients list too closely. Company chemists get to work, experimenting with ways to keep the flavor, the buzz, and, crucially, the public's trust. First comes the decocainized coca leaf, a tongue twister and a technical marvel. The company quietly sources new suppliers, ships in crates of processed leaves, and assures the public that nothing important has changed, except the thing everyone is suddenly worried about. The secret formula gets another tweak, a little more sugar, a little extra caffeine, maybe a whisper of caramel just to keep the skeptics distracted. The advertisements get a refresh, too. Now, Coca-Cola is pure, wholesome, and the drink of moderation. The word cocaine quietly vanishes from every label, pamphlet, and hand-painted sign. Soda fountains adjust without fanfare. Most customers, lost in conversation and carbonation, hardly notice the difference, at least not right away. Sure, some old-timers claim the new formula doesn't make their ears ring quite the same way. Others grumble about the good old days, when a glass of Coca-Cola could inspire poetry and power wash the driveway. But for the most part, America shrugs and takes another sip. The ritual remains. The legend lives on. And the only thing truly missing is the secret nobody wants to talk about. What might have been a scandal becomes, instead, a quiet pivot. America's most awkward breakup is handled with the kind of grace only possible when everyone agrees to forget what just happened. The glass stays half full, the smile lingers, and Coca-Cola marches on, new and improved. Or at least, new enough. In the end, you learn something important. Sometimes, history changes not with a bang, but with a sigh, a recipe adjustment, and a nation's gentle agreement to move on. So, the great experiment is over. The cocaine is gone, tucked quietly out of the recipe and into the margins of history textbooks. Yet, Coca-Cola still reigns supreme, because what's left behind is no less potent, just less likely to require a discreet trip to the pharmacist. What remains? A generous heap of sugar, a healthy shot of caffeine, and marketing so good it could sell sand in the Sahara. Let's talk about sugar. After the switch, the syrup only gets sweeter. Each glass is like a candy store you can drink, a dessert you don't need an excuse for. It's not just a treat, it's a lifestyle. The fizz dances, the sweetness lingers, and, Soon enough, a nation finds itself hooked on the only white powder left in the glass. Sugar, it turns out, is its own kind of magic. The more you drink, the more you crave. There's no hangover, just a cheerful energy crash you'll blame on modern living. And then there's caffeine. Decades before coffee shops and energy drinks crowd every corner, Coca-Cola is delivering that precious pick-me-up in every bottle. Need a jolt before work? Grab a Coke. Tired after lunch? Coke. Need to scrub the floor, write a novel, or avoid awkward conversation at a family picnic? Coke. The buzz is smoother now. No more accidental poetry or spontaneous hymn singing. But it's still there, like a gentle nudge from your favorite hyperactive friend. But what really keeps Coca-Cola afloat in this post-cocaine era is pure, unfiltered marketing genius. The ads are everywhere. Billboards, newspapers, the sides of barns, and, eventually, the new miracle machine, television, polar bears, Santa Claus, stylish young couples in convertibles, and smiling families at picnics. The message is always the same. Coca-Cola isn't just a drink. It's happiness. It's America. It's belonging, all in a glass bottle, or can, if you're feeling futuristic. The slogans are relentless and vaguely hypnotic. Delicious and refreshing. The pause that refreshes. It's the real thing. Each phrase is a nudge, a wink, and a promise. Marketing teams invent new holidays, new occasions, and new reasons to crack open a Coke. Share one at Christmas. Bring a case to the big game. Cool off in the summer. Celebrate a Tuesday. The drink is always just right. Always within arm's reach, and always slightly addictive. Competitors come and go, but Coca-Cola's brand endures, almost immune to changing tastes or the rise of health fads. Nutritionists raise their eyebrows, dentists quietly upgrade their equipment, and schools try swapping soda for water, usually to the loud protests of students who have no intention of giving up their daily ritual. Critics call it empty calories, fans call it comfort. Either way, the bottle is never empty for long. As the years roll on, Coca-Cola adapts. New flavors, new packaging, even diet versions for the guilt-ridden. The formula may be secret, but the strategy is clear. Keep the sugar, keep the caffeine, and keep the dream alive, one carefully branded bottle at a time. So, what remains? Only everything that matters: the sugar, the caffeine, the unstoppable force of collective nostalgia, the simple joy of hearing that first crisp fizz, and a marketing machine so persuasive it made America fall in love again and again, with a beverage that, by now, is less about what's in the glass and more about what it makes you feel. Take a sip. Smile. Somewhere, a billboard is smiling back. It's a new century, and you're standing in a world that feels bigger, faster, and slightly sweeter than before. Coca-Cola, born as a pharmacy experiment and sold as a medicinal tonic, has escaped the glass and marble confines of Jacob's Pharmacy and gone wandering. It's on trains, at picnics, in baseball stadiums, and, miracle of miracles, even in the Arctic, if you believe the polar bear advertisements. The drink that started out curing headaches is now curing the world's thirst for modernity. Other sodas are multiplying like rabbits at a carrot convention. What was once the exclusive domain of the pharmacist's counter is now a race of flavor, fizz, and fierce loyalty. Root beer, ginger ale, orange soda. They're all jostling for a spot in your icebox. But none of them have quite the same story, quite the same secret formula, or quite the same knack for showing up exactly where you need it. You can find Coca-Cola at the general store in the smallest town or at a hotel in Paris. It's the universal language, spoken in bubbles. The factories are now humming with purpose. Bottling lines stretch for miles, clinking out a steady stream of glass. Trucks loaded with crates roll out of cities, heading for the countryside, the coast, and anywhere a parched traveler might be found. Soda fountains still serve up the magic. But the real revolution is happening in bottle caps and convenience. For the first time, you can drink your favorite fizz whenever you want, wherever you want, no pharmacist required. Advertising campaigns become as much a part of daily life as the weather report. The Coca-Cola logo, curvy, red, and instantly recognizable, follows you everywhere, on matchbooks, clocks, and even the walls of remote country stores. The company starts inventing traditions just to sell more bottles. Santa Claus drinks Coke, baseball players chug it between innings, and movie theaters discover people will watch almost anything if their hands are wrapped around an icy cup of soda. International expansion takes off like a bottle cap under pressure. Soldiers take Coca-Cola abroad during wars and never stop asking for it. New bottling plants spring up on every continent, serving drinks to people who have never seen Atlanta but can hum the jingle. It becomes not just a soda, but a symbol, a sign that you, too, are living in the future, that you're part of a worldwide club whose membership requires only a thirst and a nickel. Coca-Cola's competitors try everything. Some go wild with flavor, others with strange colors, but most simply try to copy the magic formula, never quite getting it right. Some fail spectacularly, others carve out their own loyal following, but Coca-Cola keeps growing. It's in lunchboxes, on billboards, in roadside diners, and at the center of every summer memory. The secret recipe stays secret, and the legend only grows. Soon, soda is no longer just a drink, it's a tradition. Families toast birthdays with clinking glass bottles. Teenagers pass around a six-pack at the beach. Parents, slightly guilty, sneak a sip or two when the kids aren't looking. The world has gone bubbly, and nobody seems to mind. You sit back, listening to the familiar sound of fizz and laughter. The bottle sweats in your hand, cool and comforting. It's hard to believe it all started as a cough syrup, a headache remedy, a tonic for what ailed you. Now, it's what brings you together, connects continents, and turns the ordinary into a small, sweet celebration. Take another sip. You're part of something big now, a global icon, bottled just for you. So here you are, lying in bed, maybe with a faint memory of that last glass of soda, and wondering, would you personally have survived the heyday of original Coca-Cola? Could you have handled a world where every headache came with a prescription? Every soda fountain was a pharmacy, and the hottest new drink came with a warning label that read, "Side effects may include euphoria, insomnia, and accidental poetry." Let's set the scene. You wake up in 1890s Atlanta, a city pulsing with energy, and not just from the trains, factories, and endless political speeches. The real buzz is coming from the pharmacies, where everyone from stressed businessmen to curious school children lines up for their daily glass. The air is sticky, the sidewalks are hot, and the entire town is lightly vibrating. There are more patent medicines than vegetables, and most of them taste either like candy or mild regret. First, you'd have to survive the basics. Are you comfortable trusting your pharmacist more than your doctor, because the local druggist is part bartender, part wizard, and absolutely winging it every time he pours a glass? Would you hesitate to drink something new and mysterious, knowing full well it might contain sugar, caffeine, cocaine, or a secret blend of herbs nobody's ever identified? In this era, curiosity is a survival skill, along with an iron stomach and the ability to smile through dental pain. Next comes the social gauntlet. Could you keep up with the conversation at the soda fountain, where the latest gossip moves faster than the carbonation in your glass? Would you politely laugh along as your friends debate whether Coca-Cola is the best thing since sliced bread, which, incidentally, hasn't been invented yet? Or would you risk social exile by ordering plain water? Remember, water is for the suspicious and the unfortunate. Real Americans drink whatever's fizzy and possibly slightly illegal. Now, about the side effects. Could you fall asleep after 2 or 3 glasses? Or would you join the army of restless souls sweeping their front porches at midnight? Would you visit the dentist, bravely and often, Or just accept that by your late 20s you'd be whistling through a few gaps in your smile? Would you power through a full day on nothing but soda, questionable bread, and hope? Or would you find yourself longing for a salad just for the novelty? And then there's the matter of trends. Could you keep up with the relentless marketing, the new slogans, the endless contests for who could drink the most without blinking? Would you start to crave the ritual, the ice-cold bottle, the hiss of the fizz? Could you face a temperance rally with a straight face, secretly plotting your next trip to the soda fountain? Looking back, it's clear, survival in the original Coke era wasn't just about health or habits. It was about embracing the absurd, celebrating a little risk, and finding joy in every bubbly sip. Most of all, it was about community, a shared adventure in flavor, caffeine, and accidental chemical innovation. If you could keep your wits, your humor, and most of your teeth, you'd probably do just fine. So as you drift off to sleep, be grateful for your filtered water, your modest caffeine, and your dental plan. But don't forget the wild, improbable history that led to the humble bottle on your nightstand. Would you have survived? Of course you would. You're still here after all, and history, like soda, always finds a way to keep bubbling back. It's a chilly morning in 1890, and you're sitting in the waiting room of your local doctor's office. The wallpaper is peeling, the magazines are 2 decades out of date, and the only thing more persistent than the smell of disinfectant is the chorus of sneezes from fellow patients. You're here for a headache, a cough, or maybe just a general case of the nerves. A catch-all diagnosis that covers everything from existential dread to having too much laundry. You brace for the usual routine. A few questions, a poke or two, and a stern warning to get more fresh air. But this time, the doctor leans in, lowers his voice, and prescribes you something miraculous. A daily dose of Coca-Cola. You can hardly believe your luck. No bitter pills, no chalky powders, no gruesome tonics that taste like defeat. Instead, you get to leave the office with an official, handwritten prescription for a beverage you'd gladly drink anyway. The doctor hands you the note with a look of quiet pride, as if he's just granted you a ticket to the good life. Take 1 glass 3 times a day. More if you're feeling adventurous. For the first time, you hope you don't recover too quickly. You skip down the block, past the hardware store and the suspiciously energetic dog, straight to the pharmacy. The pharmacist reads your prescription and nods knowingly. "Ah, the doctor's favorite," he says, pulling out the bottle with a little extra flourish. He mixes your syrup, adds a generous fizz of soda water, and slides the glass across the counter like he's dealing cards at a high-stakes poker game. You savor that first sip, grateful that, for once, medicine doesn't taste like punishment. Around you, the pharmacy is full of kindred spirits. Some are here for headaches, others for nerves, and a few just need an excuse to linger in good company. The scene is quietly absurd. Grown adults swapping stories about their condition, holding prescription slips like badges of honor, and comparing notes on the optimal time of day for a second or third dose. One mother confides that her child's teething pains have vanished, and her own mood has improved immeasurably. Another man claims Coca-Cola helped him finish painting his entire house in a single afternoon. Nobody asks about side effects. And the doctor certainly isn't advertising any. In the exam room, the doctor's shelf is stocked with bottles of Coca-Cola alongside more traditional remedies. Laudanum, quinine, camphor, and a variety of things that smell like shoe polish. But it's clear which treatment gets the most repeat customers. People begin to visit the doctor just for the prescription. Cough or no cough, headache or just a case of Monday, everyone wants a taste of the future. The genius is in the branding. What was once a soda fountain novelty is now a medical marvel. A product you can brag about and enjoy without guilt. The line between healthcare and happy hour is blurred, and nobody seems to mind. Doctors, eager for grateful patients and glowing testimonials, start prescribing Coca-Cola for everything from the common cold to heartbreak. Sales soar, so do spirits. Soon, the doctor's waiting room is the most popular spot in town, filled with hopeful faces and the soft rustle of prescription slips. In an age of leeches, bloodletting, and dubious ointments, Coca-Cola is a revelation. Refreshing, effective, and, best of all, delicious. And as you sip your prescribed tonic, you wonder, maybe being a little bit sick isn't so bad after all. It's the turn of the century. And while the rest of America is obsessed with politics, new inventions, and how to keep their bowler hats from blowing away, you're much more interested in a different kind of society. The mysterious world behind the soda fountain. Here, in the marble and brass heart of every pharmacy, the real power belongs to the soda jerks. Part chemist, part entertainer, and unofficial keepers of community secrets. You slide onto your usual stool, just out of reach of the swinging fountain gate. On the other side, a young man in a crisp white jacket, a paper hat perched at a slightly rebellious angle, stands guard. To the untrained eye, he's just there to pour drinks and wipe the counter. But you know better. Soda jerks are a fraternity unto themselves, a club with no official charter, but plenty of unspoken rules. Their tools are simple: long-handled spoons, syrup pumps, and a deep well of patience. Their craft, however, is anything but. Watch closely and you'll see the subtle handshake, a nod for the regulars, a wink for a fellow jerk from another pharmacy, a quiet code passed back and forth in the form of syrup choices and fizz. They trade recipes like magicians, swap spells, always searching for the next perfect combination that will leave the customer speechless, or at least bouncing with energy. Every soda jerk worth his salt knows the stories. He knows who just got engaged, who's feuding with the school teacher, and who sneaks an extra cherry phosphate after choir practice. The soda fountain is confession booth and gossip parlor, a place where the jerk dispenses advice along with extra foam. He listens to heartbreak, celebrates report card victories, and can keep a secret longer than most politicians hold a promise. Initiation into the ranks is simple but demanding. You start as a glass washer, scrubbing, stacking, and watching. Eventually, you're trusted to pull the taps, measure syrup, and stir without causing a sticky disaster. But the true test is speed. Can you pour 5 sodas, remember 6 names, and recount last week's baseball scores without missing a beat? Can you survive the Sunday rush, when the entire town seems to show up just after church, hungry for both sugar and the latest scandal? The perks are subtle but sweet. You get the best gossip, an endless stream of samples, and the admiration of every child in town. You're the first to know about new flavors, the only one who knows how much syrup is actually in a double. And you have the power to cure a bad day with a little extra fizz. If someone really needs cheering up, you might even slip them the coveted special, a secret blend known only to a select few and rumored to cure everything from heartbreak to stage fright. But with great power comes great responsibility. The soda jerk is judge and jury on straw etiquette, keeper of the marble counter, and defender against unruly crowds of penny-waving children. He must never, under any circumstances, let the fizz fall flat or the conversation turn dull. At closing time, when the last glass is washed and the lights are dimmed, the soda jerks gather for a final, whispered debrief. They recount the day's dramas, swap news from rival fountains, and maybe, just maybe, perfect a new recipe before sunrise. So next time you order a glass at the counter, tip your hat, you're in the presence of a secret society, a brotherhood and sometimes sisterhood of fizz, flavor, and flawless small talk. And if you're very lucky, you might just learn the secret handshake. It's the golden age of advertising. Billboards loom over city streets. Newspapers spill over with splashy illustrations and raucous headlines. You can't escape the message, no matter where you look. Coca-Cola is the drink of the future, the cure for your ailments, and the surest sign you've arrived in modern America. Health claims are everywhere, but so is the hype, and sometimes it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. You walk past a barn painted with "Drink Coca-Cola" in looping, confident script. You pick up the paper and see full-page ads with beaming housewives and athletes, their hands wrapped lovingly around a sweating glass. At the pharmacy, there's a sign promising that a single serving banishes fatigue, relieves headaches, and refreshes the soul. Another ad, tacked to a telegraph pole, claims the drink is recommended by physicians, trusted by mothers, and loved by children. If you believed every poster, Coca-Cola could cure everything from indigestion to heartbreak, and possibly help you win the lottery. Behind the scenes, the marketing machine is running at full throttle. Slogans are tested, tweaked, and rolled out with all the subtlety of a parade down Main Street. Delicious and refreshing, the ideal brain tonic. It's the real thing. Every phrase is calculated to lodge itself in your brain and echo there every time you feel even a hint of thirst. Brand ambassadors, long before the days of influencers, travel the country, giving out samples, shaking hands, and telling anyone who will listen that Coca-Cola is the drink for modern times. No corner of daily life is safe from the campaign. At the county fair, you win a free bottle for guessing the number of marbles in a jar. At the schoolhouse, the teacher hands out Coca-Cola bookmarks as rewards for good spelling. Even church socials get in on the action, with picnic banners that subtly suggest Jesus might have turned water into something a little bubblier if given the choice. Doctors are recruited as unwitting spokespeople. A glowing testimonial from Dr. So-and-so of Peoria graces every newspaper. Pharmacists receive special window signs and the occasional bonus crate for their loyalty. Housewives clip coupons. Children beg for branded trinkets, and even skeptical fathers can't resist the allure of a refreshing pick-me-up after a long day at the office. Sometimes, the health claims stretch the bounds of credibility and common sense. Cures hysteria, revives the aged, makes you popular. If there's an ailment or an insecurity, there's an ad promising that Coca-Cola is the solution. And the beauty of the pitch? Even if it doesn't work, it still tastes better than castor oil, and nobody's ever regretted a glass of something sweet and cold after a hot walk home. You realize that the true genius isn't in the bottle, it's in the promise. Coca-Cola becomes more than a drink. It's a ticket to the future, a way to feel like you belong. You sip, you smile, and you join the millions who have been sold on hope, hype, and happiness, all for the price of a nickel. As you drift off to sleep, you ponder just how much of what you buy is based on need, and how much is just the irresistible pull of a really, really good slogan. If the answer is most of it, well, you're not alone. In the age of advertising overdrive, you're just another happy customer, sold, sated, and perhaps just a little bit hypnotized. It's a Saturday in 1905, and your house is bursting at the seams. There are children everywhere, sprawled on the porch, racing through the kitchen, giggling under the dinner table. You've lost count of how many cousins are here, and nobody is even pretending to look for bedtime. The culprit, of course, sits proudly on the parlor sideboard. A pitcher of Coca-Cola, beads of condensation promising excitement for all ages. You pour a round of frosty glasses, and the stampede begins. In this golden age of soda, children are not only welcome at the fountain, they're the most enthusiastic customers. The pharmacist offers extra syrup for little ones, and parents encourage a second glass with a wink, grateful for anything that keeps the kids from complaining about boiled cabbage. Caffeine and sugar are gifts, not vices. Nobody whispers about ADHD. Instead, you marvel at how quickly Junior can run around the house before collapsing in a pile of giggles and shoe leather. Bedtime becomes a group negotiation, and you, armed with only a storybook and a vague sense of authority, have no chance. The kids bounce from room to room, inventing games that require no rules and endless stamina. Their laughter is shrill, their requests for just one more sip relentless. A glass of Coca-Cola is the ultimate bribe. The the promise that tomorrow's chores will be tackled with enthusiasm bordering on mania. You know the price you'll pay. Nobody will sleep until well after midnight, and tomorrow's sunrise will bring groggy apologies and sticky-fingered hugs. At birthday parties, the drink is a highlight. Forget about cake. Children gather around the soda fountain, trading marbles and secrets for a second glass. Every child has their favorite mix. Cherry syrup for the bold, lemon for the thoughtful, double fizz for the daredevil. Siblings become temporary allies, united by the quest for an extra pour. Cousins form whispering cabals, plotting elaborate schemes to raid the icebox after dark. No grown-up is safe from a late-night request for just a taste, and nobody is counting refills. Teachers soon learn the truth. Classroom discipline is a fantasy when half the students have started the morning with 2 glasses of Coca-Cola. Schoolyards are alive with children whose energy seems inexhaustible. Games of tag last for hours. Spelling bees are lightning fast, and recess is a swirling mass of feet, elbows, and laughter. Any teacher hoping for a quiet afternoon knows to check the lunchboxes first. If there's a bottle inside, all hope is lost, but no one seems to mind. The nation is young, restless, and always in motion. Parents accept that bedtime is a moving target, and neighbors trade remedies for sleeplessness, none of which work as well as a cold glass of soda in the first place. Family photo albums fill with wild-eyed children, cheeks flushed and grins wide, clutching glass bottles like trophies. Even the family dog seems more excitable, chasing his tail with new determination. As you listen to the muffled thunder of children stampeding through the upstairs hall, you realize nobody is worried about screen time or bedtime routines. The only thing that matters is that everyone is happy, sugared up, and, for a few precious years, absolutely unstoppable. So you lean back, surrender to the chaos, and pour yourself a glass, too. If nobody's sleeping before 1910, you might as well enjoy the ride. One bubbly, sleepless, joy-soaked night at a time. Step into an American parlor at the turn of the 20th century, and you'll spot something gleaming on the mantel or tucked on a shelf. An empty Coca-Cola bottle displayed like a hunting trophy. It might be the classic straight-sided variety, or one with a hand-painted label already flaking at the edges. But no matter the style, each bottle comes with a story, and, more often than not, a faint ring of syrup on the wood beneath it. Coca-Cola isn't just a drink anymore, it's an event, a trend, and, for some, the start of a full-blown collecting craze. For every enthusiastic soda drinker, there's a would-be collector scouring the alleys behind the pharmacy, pockets jingling with nickels and hopes of finding a rare or especially beautiful bottle. Bragging rights are everything. If you have the first year's bottling, your neighbors will hear about it over and over, and possibly through interpretive dance at the next garden party. Children become pint-sized treasure hunters, peering into trash bins and alleys for that elusive embossed logo or the fabled bottle from a distant city. They trade bottles like baseball cards, bartering for marbles or a slice of lemon pie. Some kids even start their own bottle clubs, complete with secret passwords and elaborate ceremonies involving a pile of broken glass and a lot of parental disapproval. Adults get in on the action too. Proud fathers line their workshop shelves with dusty bottles, boasting about the rare green-tinted glass that only came from the Birmingham plant. Mothers repurpose empty bottles as vases, candlesticks, or, in one memorable case, a flower pot for the world's most caffeinated daisy. Even the local pharmacist has a few favorites tucked behind the counter, trotted out to impress customers who are serious about carbonation. But being a collector in these early days is not for the faint of heart or the clumsy. Glass is brittle, bottles are heavy, and accidents are frequent. The sound of shattering glass is the background music of every enthusiastic collector's youth. One moment, you're showing off your prize to an admiring friend. The next, you're sweeping shards under the rug and vowing to be more careful right after you finish mourning your loss. Local contests spring up. Who has the oldest bottle? The most from different cities? The rarest label? Winners go home with bragging rights, a handshake, and possibly a fresh bottle of Coca-Cola to start the whole process over. Bottles become family heirlooms, passed down from one generation to the next, complete with stories about the daring alleyway rescues and near misses with the family cat. Some collectors take things a little too seriously, hoarding boxes in the attic or devising elaborate systems to catalogue their finds. Friends and family offer gentle interventions. Maybe donate a few to the church rummage sale? But to no avail. The thrill is in the chase, the sparkle of sunlight through imperfect glass, the clink and rattle as you rearrange your trophies one more time before bed. As the years pass, Coca-Cola bottles change shape, gain curves, lose labels, and multiply by the millions. But for a lucky few, the magic is never in the soda, it's in the glass, the hunt, and the story behind every chip and scratch. So as you settle in for the night, you might glance at your own shelf, remember the thrill of the chase, and smile. Bragging rights fade, bottles break, but a good story and a little bit of sticky nostalgia lasts forever. So tonight, as you stretch out in your bed with central heating, filtered water, and the luxury of knowing your beverages won't accidentally get you arrested, take a slow, grateful breath. Spare a quiet moment for the wild optimism of 19th century America. A place where your local pharmacist could, with a straight face, hand you a glass of cocaine-laced soda and call it medicine. Because back then, survival wasn't just about avoiding disease or outsmarting winter. It was about rolling the dice every time you reached for a drink, trusting that your body and your teeth could handle a daily chemical experiment and still make it to Sunday church with your dignity mostly intact. People drank, chattered, invented, and hustled, sometimes all at once, often with questionable judgment and always with a sugar rush, and somehow they made it through. But let's give a little credit. Those restless, ambitious souls were nothing if not resilient. They pushed through pain, boredom, and the occasional medical disaster, always searching for the next miracle in a bottle. They had no idea what a calorie was, but they were determined to swallow as many as possible, especially if it tasted like hope and a little bit like danger. So as you tuck in tonight, clean, hydrated, and probably not vibrating with chemically induced euphoria, maybe whisper a thank you to the inventors, the soda jerks, and even the overly enthusiastic advertisers. History may be absurd and slightly terrifying, but it's also proof that people are endlessly creative, hopelessly optimistic, and willing to try anything, at least once. Good night, and may your dreams be just a little bit sweeter and a lot less caffeinated than theirs. Sleep well.